friends, my name is Serge and I'm here with some more guitar instruction for you this morning. I just finished my coffee and I'm ready to go. Today we're going to talk about another esoteric subject, or at least seems to be amongst most guitar players, and that is the subject of sweep picking. What is it? How do you make it happen? How do you get the technique? Is it impossible? Of course the answer is no, it is not, and in my opinion, every guitar player should learn how to do it. It can be applicable to any genre of music, in my opinion. Now, of course, I'm sure you can tell just by the guitar that I'm playing that I grew up in metal music and punk music, and of course, I love all kinds of music, but I grew up in that scene where sweep picking was very popular. So let's talk about, for one, what is sweep picking? Well, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's quite literally where you take your pick and you sweep. Just like you would, do this on a violin. That's kind of where it comes from, right? One fluent motion over the strings. Okay, sweep picking would sound like essentially a stacked arpeggio that goes really fast, and with a bunch of distortion it sounds pretty awesome. So let's talk about understanding the fundamentals of how we get to this point. Okay, most sweep picking involves arpeggios, but it doesn't have to be an arpeggio to be sweep picked. Okay, there's plenty of things that I sweep pick that are blues licks that that are not arpeggios, obviously, right? You could count that as a sweep pick. I'm more flat picking that to get the sound, but it's still a sweep. You see me doing that motion, okay? So let's talk about the arpeggio aspect of this. Now, I did a video on the cage system. If you don't know what caged is, you may want to go watch that video just to get an explanation, so that way you can follow along with this video. So caged is essentially every chord on the guitar in its different shapes, right? So let's take C major, for example. Okay, that's every C chord on the guitar, right there. Now, with those shapes, I have all the arpeggios that go along with the shapes. All right, you get the idea. So on and so forth. I can do this with every chord shape on the guitar. There's an arpeggio. Now, what is an arpeggio? An arpeggio is a triad that is essentially played in order, 1, 3, 5, okay? First let's talk about what is a triad. A triad is what makes a chord, okay? A 1, a 3, and a 5, and if it's a minor chord, it's a 1, a flat 3, and a 5. But right now we're doing major chords, so let's just worry about that. So how do we get the numbers 1, 3, 5? Well, if we're in C major, as I stated, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then back to the 1, okay, next octave up. Or you could say that as 8, depending on what you're doing. I would just say back to the 1 for this purpose. 1 that I just stated is C, the 3 would be an E, and the 5 would be a G, okay? All we need is those 3 notes to make a chord, but we can't play it like that, obviously, because we can't ring out all 3 of those notes. So we have to put it in different spots. So we have to go to a different spot of the guitar to achieve the same note. So here we have a C, we can use that E, and then we just use the open G string for the 5, right? Technically, those 3 notes alone are a C chord, and then to get the full effect, all we're doing is stacking another variation of those notes higher on the strings. So then we have C, E, G, and then we just have another C, and then an E. And you could add this G if you wanted to, okay? And I actually just played an arpeggio there. So we have our C chord, right? We have C, E, G, C, E, okay? Just different variations of the notes stacked on top of each other. If I'm gonna play it in order as a triad, it would go C, E, G, C, E, G, E, C, G, E, C, G, C, okay? And then we would essentially, let me give you an example of something that you would have to formulate a different pattern on your hand to play the arpeggio. So here's the second variation of the C chord on the guitar. So we have C, G, C, E, okay? Now, of course, we can't make an arpeggio with that because we're missing the third there. So we would have to go back to this shape, C, E, G, right? The same thing we did there, but we're just doing it in a different variation. C, E, G, C, E, G, C, E, G, and if you wanted to, hit the octave, C, C, G, E, C, G, E, C, G, C. And that's in order, right? So that's our arpeggio. Now, to be honest, sweep picking that version of the arpeggio is a little bit difficult. I could do it. But I actually would play it like this. So I would go C, E, G, C, E, G, C. Play it as a big box. Okay? So how am I doing that? Well, as I talked about in my prior video about economy picking, sweep picking is another technique that you want to use slanted picking for, or edge picking. Either term is kind of interchangeable, and that's again where I take the very edge of my pick here and use this corner of it essentially, and I'm hitting the strings more at a slant. So this would be flat picking, right? If I'm just picking everything straight. When I slant pick, I'm picking with the side of my pick essentially. That essentially makes it so we don't feel it as much as we're switching strings, which makes it easier to fluently play in a sweep rather than something like alt picking, okay? You don't want to flat pick this. That'll make it very difficult to get an actual sweep in. So you want to slant pick it. And the difference between an arpeggio and a chord, of course, is that we're playing the notes singular. We're playing them in order individually rather than playing them just as a big chord, right? Because some people try to sweep pick like a chord. They'll go, but you don't want the notes to ring out. You want them to be individual. Now on this hand, what it's going to take is rolling this part of your finger. You're rolling that up on the strings. You're not just keeping it barred, because this is what it would sound like, right? You don't want ring. You want to roll it off the strings into a fluent pattern, okay? If you have a hard time getting the full pattern, just do 3 notes. So here's what I'm doing. If I was going to do this 3 notes a string to make it simpler, I would do a downstroke, and then I would hammer on, okay? And then pull off to come back down. Now when I come back down, I'm only hitting those 2 notes. Okay, because the pull off got the notes that I wanted. When you get to the top, you're really letting this hand do the work. You want to pull off, you want to hammer on and then pull off. And the reason I use sweep picking for most lines that I'm playing, if I can, is because it actually just makes guitar playing easier. It takes away a lot of excess work on my playing that I don't need for fast runs, or, you know, just different sounds essentially, right? If you don't need to pick everything, why work harder if you can work smarter? That's always my opinion with guitar playing. I want my guitar to work for me. I don't want to work for it. And as I stated in one of my videos, even about like my guitar in general, my action is super, super, super low. Probably the lowest I've ever seen on a guitar. My strings are very slinky feeling. I play with 9s. So everything about my guitar works for me. I'm not working to bend strings. I'm not working to get notes out. And you got to do what's right for you, of course. I will preface this though. If you have a guitar with a high action, it's going to be harder to sweep pick in general, because the motion of your pick is going to get stuck on the strings more than when you have a lower action like this. And this hand isn't going to be able to fluently move as quickly as if you have a low action where your strings are basically almost touching the frets. If you need help with this technique, please feel free to shoot me an email. It's in the description below. I also teach here in Nashville and online as well, so if you're interested in lessons, please feel free to reach out. My email and link to my website's in the description below. And I appreciate you guys watching this video and supporting. If you get a lot out of this, please feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe. That's all appreciated. It really helps me out a lot. So I thank you guys, and I will be posting some more guitar technique videos this week. So have a great rest of your day.